Hello, all you great people. Good morning. This is DJ Horror Studio 1 coming to you once again with a great set of hits coming up right for ya, including JT's new single, Can't Stop the Creepin'. So grab a blanket, turn off your lights for 4 true scary ghost stories about the radio. Paranormal radio? When I was about 9 years old, I was staying at home alone, and being the little snoop that I was, I decided to look around my older sister's room and check out all her cool stuff, Nintendo 64 and whatnot. She had this big radio tape CD player on her dresser, which I now own, and as I'm looking around her room, the radio suddenly turned on and started blasting some extremely terrifying lyrics, with a creepy bass line as the only musical instrument. Keep in mind, it doesn't have an alarm clock. I remember the lyrics to this day in a metal type of low growl angry voice. The lyrics went like, "Little boy, I am behind you, I'm gonna kill you." This is all I needed to hear before I clicked the off button on the radio and went outside the house until my parents got home. To this day, I still haven't found a song with these lyrics, and I felt like the words were directed towards me. My question is, has anyone else had this happen to them or heard this song? It's rather hard to explain lyrics in pure text, but I know you know if you heard it. The radio experience. This happened not too long ago, while I was living with my girlfriend at the time. It was late one night, and we were already in our sleeping state, when I awoken by the sound of soft, unfamiliar music. It was a very small house we lived in at the time, so it was crystal clear. The music itself was coming from the only radio in the house, and it was near the back door. Now, knowing myself, I lock all the doors before lights out, so the possibility of an intruder was out of my mind, especially since me and my girlfriend both have had previous experiences that I do intend on mentioning in future posts. There is something odd about this though. Our room is directly to the left as soon as you walk in, and the living room is combined with the kitchen. I'll do my best to include photos if you guys want. Now back to the radio. The music seemed to have started so casually, as if it were fading in like a dream. I laid there staring out at the open room door, not scared, but more curious than anything. I couldn't wrap my head around what was going on. I was hearing this music play and it seemed very relaxing. I couldn't explain it. I even put it off as I'm dreaming. Then, as soon as the smooth, subtle song finished, the radio seemed to just slowly fade to silence. Like how it sounds when you slowly turn the volume down till it's off. I couldn't explain it. I was in disbelief. What made it worse is that my girlfriend started to ask me out of the blue, "Did you hear that?" I only replied with the truth. "I was hoping you didn't," which was true. Remember what I said about previous experiences? Most of them are hers, and she told me these things occur always when I was at work. I unfortunately had a couple experiences as well, so knowing all of this and knowing how she's already uncomfortable with these strange, unexplainable happenings, the last thing I wanted for her to hear was that I heard it too. We've since then have broken up and moved out. I went my way and she went hers, but the experiences I won't forget, and I plan to bring these to you. Since we still keep in contact, I'm able to obtain details of her experiences and even get photos of the house. Until then, this was our experience with the unexplainable radio that seemed to just have turned on in the middle of the night and gracefully turned itself back off. Now, I'm not sure what it was, but I was sure it wasn't a natural phenomenon. Childhood ghost story. Hi, I'm a longtime subscriber who listens to your videos every day while I'm at work. I listen to around 15 different narrators, but you are my favorite. Hoping you will like my stories. I will send you a few separate emails of different stories so that it isn't cluttered in one message. Thanks for your consideration and taking the time to read this. P.S. All of my stories are 100% true. I hate when people make things up. I hope you will use one of my stories in a video. I will hear it if you do. My family moved into their current home when I was about 4 years old. It was not your typical suburban home built in 1997, but rather an old brick 1940s bungalow a block away from an old cemetery. Before we lived there, it was used as a butcher's home until it was bought by another family and turned into a bed and breakfast. It was strange to think that people would pay to stay there, but I guess they did, and I wonder how many odd people had slept in my room before we lived there. When we moved in, we noticed some interesting features. The house had a creepy brick basement, painted black, and windows walk on the roof that emanated the sound of someone walking whenever it rained out. It also had a boarded up crawl space of sorts that connected the closet in my room to my sister's room. Creepy, right? It also didn't help that my eccentric parents are antique collectors and decorated the whole house with old stuff and Victoria-era furniture. At one point, my dad even installed a rusty iron fence around our yard. I asked him where he got in the fencing, and he nonchalantly told me it was from a cemetery. That didn't help the creepiness. From an early age, I felt uneasy in quite a few areas of the house, and I felt watched pretty much any time I was home alone. Whenever I went upstairs where my sister and I's bedrooms were, I felt as if someone was chasing me. I almost never walked up those stairs, always ran, and I never went to sleep without feeling watched, as I always just felt a presence standing in my doorway looking in. Many strange things happened up there in my bedroom. My radio, I had one at a school function, and I never used once, turned on by itself when I left the room, blaring opera music. Several other times I was awoken in the middle of the night to my Barbie washing machine going off. Another time, my door, which locked from the inside, got stuck and locked me in, only to open after a half hour of struggling when my dad finally decided to drill a hole through the knob. My sister also claimed to hear scratching from my closet when she would sleep in my room on days I was gone. The most unusual occurrence, though, took place one night when I was about 10 years old. I was jolted awake at around 1 a.m. I know this because I looked right at the clock, as I always did when I woke up. This is also how I know it wasn't a dream, since I could make out the numbers on my clock clearly. As I looked away from my clock, I noticed something strange. A little girl was standing in my door, looking in my toy crib at my stuffed animals I kept in there. She was about 6 years of age, with long hair to her lower back, and a lacy white long-sleeved nightgown that looked Victorian. At first, I thought it was my sister, but then I realized it wasn't. Not only was this girl not my sister, she was glowing vibrant blue and slightly see-through. And she was just standing as if she didn't know I was there, looking at and touching my stuffed animals in the toy crib. After a few seconds of pondering what to do, I finally spoke up and asked, "Do you like my toys?" She looked at me nervously as if she was startled to see someone, and quickly ran for the door. Before she got there, though, she disappeared, just vanished as if she was never there. One might think I'd be scared, but the experience was nothing but peaceful, and I felt no threat. She just seemed like a lonely little girl who wanted some toys to play with. I drifted back to sleep a few minutes later, thinking nothing of it until morning when I realized what had happened. I told my parents, but they didn't believe me, and to this day, they still joke about the dead girl in my room. Now, over the years, I've had many more experiences, and I will share them all in time. Now that I moved out of the house, I'm more comfortable thinking about the experience I had there and asking myself who the spirits that haunt my childhood home could be. Could they be previous visitors to the bed and breakfast, or helpless souls attached to certain objects my parents bring home, perhaps wandering spirits from the cemetery down the block, or spirits attached to the cemetery fence around our yard? I can't say for sure, but I did ask my dad where my matching Victorian bed and dresser came from. Apparently, they originally belonged to a sea captain's family whose daughter founded a prominent college in our town. The daughter apparently lost her mind after the death of her favorite daughter, and according to her biography, she performed seances almost nightly to try to contact her little girl. Could this be the girl that I saw attached to the family bed? I will never know. But the thought itself is eerie enough. Iris. I have always loved the song Iris by the Goo Goo Dolls. I had introduced my mom to the song as her middle sister, who died about 14 years ago as a result of breast cancer, was called Iris. So of course she loved the song too, and it was kind of our music, as there wasn't much music that we mutually liked. 6 years ago, my mom was hit by a car and died as a result of her injuries 10 days later. Her condition had been slowly deteriorating since the day of the accident, and by the time she passed, she had suffered a major stroke, was on life support, and a decision needed to be made. That day, a doctor spoke to us late in the afternoon and explained the situation. Although in all honesty, I did not need to be told. I had known this was coming since arriving at the hospital the night of the accident. There has always been a connection between my mom, my sister, and myself. But that's perhaps a story for another time, and I want to keep this brief. We left the hospital that night to prepare ourselves for the fact that the following day, machines were being turned off and we were going to say goodbye. From the moment I got to her hospital bed the next day until and beyond the moment she left us, I had Iris as a constant earworm. Months later, when my sister and I finally cleared out her house, one of the things I took was a small cheap radio and CD player that she kept by her bed. I took it home, put it under my bed, and pretty much forgot about it. About 6 months later, my now ex-boyfriend asked me if I had a radio as his football team was playing, and the match was not on TV, but was live on the local radio station. I remember Mom's little player and got it for him. My house is not great for reception, and it took him a little while to find the station, and even then had to try a few rooms to get a clear signal. At halftime, he went off to get a drink, and almost without thinking, I turned the tuning dial on the radio and immediately hit a station. Loud and clear, guess what song was playing? Iris. Coincidence? Well, maybe. But there are hundreds of radio stations and millions and billions of songs. I prefer to think it was a little message from Mom. One that only I would understand.